Hello out there and welcome to Public Conscience. You are on the anti-corruption program produced by the Progressive Impact Organization for Community Development, PRIMOC. PRIMOC is a civil society organization working to promote good governance, participation and accountability in Nigeria. I am Adaobi Obiabumo with my colleague Esther Bassi.
A warm welcome to the program wherever you are listening to us from.
On Public Conscience, we seek to evolve a corruption-free society through the amplification of investigative corruption stories by our partner media organizations and alerting citizens and the government for their democratic actions against it. We equally promote integrity by amplifying rare cases of the display of honesty by public and private individuals in the course of their normal activities. We appreciate the MacArthur Foundation for supporting the production of this program.
In today's program, we will be taking a close look at efforts to combat payroll fraud in Nigeria. Today's discussion is concerning the gains and challenges of the federal government's integrated payroll and personnel information system, IPPIS, from its inception to date.
The IPPIS is a government account system that manages the payment of salaries and wages to government employees and also aims at eliminating ghost workers under the payroll. Interestingly, last week the National Security Advisor, Major General Babagana Mongoli, retired, revealed that since the federal government adopted IPPIS, it has uncovered at least 54,000 payroll frauds, despite stiff opposition from some quarters.
And before now, the federal government had always maintained that the IPPIS saved the country billions of naira by eliminating thousands of ghost workers through personnel verification exercises and salary payments processes. In 2019, the federal government said it saved $550 million from identifying ghost employees from the federal government's payroll. In 2020, 60,000 ghost workers were detected on the payroll, according to the federal government.
But with these positive and pleasant developments about the IPPIS, some Nigerians have been picking holes and raising questions about the ability of the initiative to eradicate payroll fraud in ministries, agencies, and departments of the federal government. Today's program will seek the strengthening of the IPPIS to fight payroll fraud better. At PRIMOC, we are anxious to see all the flaws and dysfunctionalities of IPPIS addressed going forward. For you out there, why do you think total removal of ghost workers on the government's payroll has become almost impossible? What improvements does the IPPIS need to fight payroll fraud better? And how can the government eradicate ghost workers syndrome, rocking several states of the Federation?
Be ready to join us through phone and text messages during this conversation. The WhatsApp phone line to send your message is 0902-265-6167, and that is 0902-265-6167. Please indicate your name and your location when sending your message. This number is for messages only.
Please begin to send your messages as soon as possible to 0902-265-6167. That is 0902-265-6167. We will give out the numbers to call shortly.
Let me quickly remind you that our focus today is on the gains and challenges of the federal government's integrated payroll and personnel information system, the IPPIS. What must be done to stop the Hydra-headed ghost worker syndrome and payroll theft in Nigeria?
Nigeria is said to have lost at least $582 billion since independence due to endemic public sector corruption. And it is instructive to note that Nigeria as a country is in a precarious situation economically, and fixing the hemorrhage requires tackling payroll and ghost employees fraud headlong.
And joining us in the studio is a public affairs analyst and education consultant, Agaba Wilson Agaba, and Olarewaju Oyedeji from DataFight. You are both welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And later on, a former secretary of the Nigerian Union of Journalists, NUJ, Rafat Salami, will join us via the phone. But let's start today's conversation with Olarewaju Oyedeji from DataFight. Could you give us a sense of what the IPPIS is all about and your assessment of it in tackling payroll fraud since inception?
Well, thank you. It feels good to be on the program. And the discussion on IPPIS is quite important given the fact that it's an initiative aimed to save the country money. Nigeria needs money a lot currently and even over the years. So in 2006, the government deemed it fit to introduce IPPIS with the aim of actually stopping ghost workers and also having a kind of personal information about the civil servants at the federal government level. And in 2007, IPPIS came fully into force. And as at then, it was supported by the World Bank, aimed at also curbing the issue of ghost workers in the country. And since then, we've been having a lot of report from the government stating that some billions of naira have been recovered at some point. Recently, 54,000 workers were said to have actually been found to be ghosts using the IPPIS. At some point, as of August, the Minister of Communications and Technology, Pantami, noted that more than 20 billion naira has been saved through IPPIS. And a lot of gains have actually been mentioned in terms of how the country has been able to use the IPPIS to tackle ghost workers and also corruption that is embedded in the federal civil service. So aside from all of these gains that have been mentioned from time to time, if you look at the numbers that have been quoted or credited to the government over time, you realize that we're talking about thousands of people in the civil service who the government say they actually can be categorized as ghost workers, meaning that they have fake employment or employment letters. They cannot be verified, and as such, the government has been paying these persons or paying the fake persons without unduly. So I feel like the IPPIS so far is so good based on the feedback we've been getting from the government, because the truth and the reality remains that the information we have to rely on this is what the government says it has been able to achieve through IPPIS. Based on that end of the IPPIS has been able to some extent help the government achieve the aims it set out to achieve. Although there are a lot of questions that still surround the deployment of the IPPIS in relation to, because if you visit the website of the IPPIS now, which is to be started at the Ministry of the Accountant General Office, you realize that there are a lot of functions that the IPPIS is meant to actually achieve. Apart from payment of salary, which actually falls around the major head, there's the personal management, there's data collection, data capturing that the IPPIS is meant to actually achieve. So there are questions that actually arise to this, that apart from we looking at the gains of IPPIS, there are a lot of preventive gains too we are not actually talking about. There are a lot of loopholes. Pantami also came out in August to say that the IPPIS has a lot of technical issues. In fact, he said that
I would have to cut it there. We'll get to the loopholes later, but let's quickly shift our attention to Agaba Wilson, who is smiling. You've heard what Olarewaju Oyedeji said about the gains of the IPPIS. This particular platform oversees over 700 MDAs. Despite criticisms of the system, the federal government insists the system is doing well in the fight against payroll corruption. What is your valuation of this from inception to date?
You see, there's something we need to get right. Automation is fine, but there is no absolute automation in any system. What we mean by automation is where you hand over activities that should otherwise be done by humans to a system that is self-starting, runs itself, evaluate, monitor, and adjust itself to get some functions done. But you see, no matter your level of automation, there's always a human interface. A human being has to make decisions somewhere. The corruption that is endemic in Nigeria is not on our computers and our internet system. It's on the people. So, now, I hear a lot of people talking about whether it is achieving its aim or not. For any system, business information system, management information system, payroll, whatever type of system to work, the people that use it needs to be willing to make it work. Do you understand that? So any gain we will experience in the IPPIS is dependent on whether or not the civil servant wants it to work. And any loophole that will be found thereof It dependent on whether or not these people want that loophole to be exploited. So generally, the IPPIS is supposed to be a very good system. It works in other countries. It works in other sectors. It can work in Nigeria. It should generate benefits. The question we should ask is whether the people who operate it are willing to make it work.
The people who operate it. So to sum up what you just said, technology is not an end in itself.
No, it's a means
to an end,
which the human being must judiciously and committedly apply themselves to make it work.
Thank you for that. But let's quickly shift to Rafat Salami. Thank you so much for finding out time to join us. I must say that Rafat Salami is a former secretary of the Nigeria Union of Journalists, NUJ. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you very much for having me.
What is your assessment of the IPPIS concerning reducing the number of ghost workers in the public service? And are you satisfied with the progress the federal government has made so far?
Okay, so I'll start by saying that I'm enrolled in the IPPIS because I work for the federal government. And I would say that since we were enrolled into the IPPIS, I've not had any issues with my salary. I've not had any issues with payments. So I think that the IPPIS, as designed, is a very good thing to have happened to us. Now, as regards the issue of ghost workers, since I was enrolled I know the process of enrolling someone into the IPPIS because I'm enrolled into the IPPIS. So it's very strange that we are still able to say that there are ghost workers, to find ghost workers. Because to be enrolled into the IPPIS, you are going to come in with your employment letter, you will come in with your confirmation, you will come in with your school certificate, you will come in with all other documents. So how would anyone be enrolled without these documents? That shows that there are criminal elements within the IPPIS that is sabotaging the system. And it is for government and the institution itself to fish them out and prosecute them. If a system says, come in with your employment letter, come in with your academic certificate, come in with your age, birth certificate or declaration of age. How did they now get in if somebody did not, circumvent the system?
Okay.
The head of service mentioned a few weeks ago that from 100,000 workers, we now have 74,000. So they were able to weed out more than 20,000 workers, ghost workers. It's very, very strange. Yes, over to you.
Okay, so we've heard stories of ghost workers on government payroll in the 70s and also in the 80s. Unlike what we have seen these days, what do you think made the difference? I mean, the numbers are quite enormous now.
No, the thing is that there are a lot of reasons why we have a deluge of information. I mean, information is freer than it used to be now. And at that time, the 70s, 80s, and even 90s that you are referencing, those are the period where sometimes workers go 2-3 months without salary because chief executives will go and warehouse this money in a fixed deposit account and take what is on top. The interest that there has always been tendency for fraud, tendency to circumvent the system within the civil service. And that was what IPPIS came in, was supposed to come and address. Now, that raises the question, who runs IPPIS? Is it the private sector initiative? Who runs IPPIS? That was what IPPIS is supposed to come and address. Why are we having that problem within the IPPIS that was supposed to come and correct an anomaly of the past?
Valid question. Why are we still having this issue of ghost workers? Since IPPIS is supposed to address that, my guest in the studio said that technology itself is not an end but a means, that there's always the element of human factor when such technology is abused, and which you have also alluded to. Now that it's established that there's a human factor circumventing the process, what must the government do to combat payroll and ghost workers fraud in Nigeria?
You see, what government will do, and not just government, I think we put too much burden on the government, as if the government is overwhelmed. What we all must do, especially we civil servants, is to continue to blow the whistle on these activities, on these fraudulent activities. I'll give you an example of one. How is it easy for these loan sharks, these people who give loans without collateral, who give loans within 24 hours? How is it easy for them to access IPPIS? One of them called me and told me to take a loan, that he has my IPPIS number. I asked him to send it to me. He sent it to me. He sent my IPPIS. This is supposed to be confidential document. It's not supposed to be on public domain. He sent my IPPIS to me and was asking me to take loans. Now, if I fall in and I take the loan, they will start deducting. Most times they will deduct over a longer period than even the loan is supposed to do. After you have finished paying the loan, they will keep deducting. Why is it easy for them to have access? There are elements within the system that is working with them.
There are elements
there that are working with them. Now, why is it also that when you want to do anything with government, for instance, if I go to bank, I have to do my BVN, I have to do everything. Is it not replicated in the IPPI system? Why are we not fishing them out?
But with all this,
all of us must be whistleblowers. That's what I'm saying. All of us within the system must be whistleblowers. All of us must safeguard and work to safeguard the integrity of the system that is supposed to benefit us. Because when it starts benefiting us, we all have a blame in it.
okay, so are you not surprised that no one is facing trials over the numbers of ghost workers found every now and then?
I am surprised and actually disappointed, because some of them should be used as deterrents. When you see that there are consequences for a crime, then it will serve as deterrents to others. It will minimize it. People will now be more cautious. I know that in the head of service, at least 5 people lost their jobs because they came in, they've been in the system and they didn't have credentials, the right credentials to be working in the system. I know that 5 people, but I believe that apart from making them lose their jobs, there should be other consequences too. And I agree with you on that.
Okay, thank you so much for your intervention at this time, Rafat Salami, a former secretary of the Nigerian Union of Journalists.
Thank you very much for having me.
Back in the studio, I still have my guests, Olarinwaju Oyedeji of Data Fight and Agaba Wilson Agaba. You have heard all that Rafat Salami said, which she concurred with what Agaba Wilson initially said, that there's an element of human factor that is circumventing the process. So some Nigerians argue that the IPPIS system would have eliminated ghost workers and payroll fraud if they are working effectively. What do you think are the major shortcomings of this system, and where do you think the compromise is coming from? This would be to you, Olarinwaju Oyedeji.
Well, the issue, as Mr. Agaba said earlier, has to do with the human factor, in the sense that you may have a system. I don't feel like the system input values itself. It still depends on humans to actually have the values inputted. Let me give you some figures I have here. Says that the Auditor General report identified that financial flows up to over 4 billion due to duplication of personal data and other anomalies were found in the IPPIs. Now, we also have the fact that the federal government has come up themselves at some point earlier this year to say that fake unemployment letters are actually taking over the IPPIs, because, as she said earlier, you have to bring your employment letter, you have to bring other details. In fact, she mentioned date of birth, a certificate, for you to actually be captured into the IPPIs.
Who does the capturing?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to drive at, for you to be captured. Now, when they bring all of this documents, the capturing and the inputting of all of this is done by a human. So the question we should be asking is that, what are the process of getting an employment letter at the Federal Civil Service in Nigeria? We should also be asking the question that, if you have an alternating date of birth, for instance, somebody brings an affidavit to say, okay, this actually occurred as an error. What are the process of obtaining an affidavit in Nigeria? So we should not just be talking. I feel like we are talking about IPPIS as the ultimate solution, but we are refusing to look at the issues that actually led to the need for IPPIs. And until we solve these issues that led to the need for IPPIs, we may be having the same issue over and over time. I feel like personally, I feel it is quite painful when we have to keep announcing every year that we are weeding out thousands of people from the federal civil service due to job racketeering and fake unemployment. The question is, what was IPPIS meant to do in the first place? So we should get to a stage in which we address the root cause issues, not just wait until we cash into the system and pay them for some months. After some months, they say, oh, we've gotten them, hold of them. What of the amount that's actually been lost? So I feel like the IPPIS should not just be a last resort. It should be a case in which it starts from the foundational level, then we get to the level of the IPPIS, because except we look at...
What is the foundation level, or according to you?
Yeah, the foundational level, I mean, basically is the fact that we should question who issues the employment letter. We should question the fact that how do people really get this fake employment letter, and how is the fact that when they get the fake employment letters and they take it to a director or somebody who is supposed to say start work, it doesn't actually dictate that this is a fake employment letter. How do we get to a stage in which all of the documents needed to be captured in IPPIS are actually authentic? How do you get to a stage in which when you want to get affidavit for a date of birth, for instance, and as a civil servant, you can be so sure that you didn't just pay some money somewhere and they give you the document? So except to solve all of these issues, as much as technology is meant to advance a coffee society, and as much as the values of IPPIS in itself again is actually laudable, I feel like we need humans that are actually genuinely interested in the workability of IPPIS for IPPIS to work. If not, we'll keep speaking English and press statement from time to time about number of people that we have actually seen. And the question we should even ask again is, when we have these numbers of people that we have seen reported in the media, but our required expenditure for payment of salaries keep going up all the time, and the unemployment figure in the country keeps going up too. So it creates a kind of hydra-headed question of, if we have these thousands of people that have been actually weeded away from the federal civil service, and we have unemployment in the country rising, and we still have our required expenditure of paying salaries rising, I'm not questioning anything, I'm just raising a question of the fact that we have to look at the fundamental issues that has to do with transparency and accountability of IPPIS. Not just saying IPPIS. IPPIS is software built by human, controlled by human.
Thank you for that. Agaba Wilson, do you agree with what he said on the issue of who issues the employment letter, the affidavits gotten from courts? Who is that person that satisfies the documents fit before they are entered into the system?
You see, when we talk IPPIS, I think it's a bit abstract for a lot of people, maybe our listener. So let me bring an example of how a system works closely home for them. A lot of you, I mean, almost everybody listening to us today now will have an account with one bank or the other. Think of the process of opening your account. How did it happen? You were asked to bring certain documents. Those documents were verified, and then it took a process for your account to be open. I have worked in the bank, so I will take it from there and move the in-house process for you. So when you bring this ID card are checked. Like now, the driver's license and the national ID card and your international passport can be checked against the databases to confirm that it's actually authenticated. So they are checked against the national database. That's a confirmation aspect for that, a third-party confirmation that's possible. Now, then there are levels of, there are people in the bank whose job is to impute this information into the system, and there are hierarchy of approval. So you see at the branch, somebody, I will enter, my supervisor will approve, then it gets to the head office, somebody will review again and approve from there before your account is set up fully functional. Now, this system, the imputer who logged in, the system keeps a log of the person. There is a process before your account was created and privileges were given and access were given. So that is warehoused in the system. Every activity you do on the system is logged in that system from whatever system you logged in, from whatever location.
So it's easy to trace.
So it's easy to trace this thing. So the software is one thing. The supporting policy is another thing. There has to be an operating policy that assigns responsibilities to individuals with different levels of access, and then that narrate how everything that should be entered must be verified, to what level, who says go ahead and enter it. If you enter it, who does the next level confirmation. If all the people in this category, that is assuming that policy document or what you call the operation manual or the SOP for that system exists in the ministry.
Yes.
Let's assume it exists. Now, do people follow it? That's another question. If they follow it, it means that the same way they could have registered somebody to start earning salary, or to register a fictitious name to start earning salary in the past, can still be done. Because you see, there's an imputer. If the imputer fraudulently imputes somebody, the person who approves fraudulently approves, and the next level review fraudulently review and gives okay, it will continue to happen. So the problem is not the system, it's the cartel of corrupt people who will come and agree. So maybe it's a Larry Waju that will enter, I will approve, he will do the second level approval, this person would, we form a cartel. So we'll say 3 people is for you, 3 people is for me, 2 people is for this person, 2 people is for this person. You say, after all, it's government money. The question is, when you go back to the system and you find this anomaly, why are you keeping quiet as if it is not possible to trace the people in the line of making these anomalies happen? People should be used as example, scapegoats. Punish them severely. Let's have laws that gives them heavy punishment for economic sabotage. So that people will see and say, if you do this thing and you are caught. But in Nigeria, it looks like the bigger the fraud you commit, the less likely you are to be punished. What are we then showing to the upcoming youth? We are telling them, okay, when you want to steal, better steal big. So these things are issues that we need to start looking at. There are other things that you, like the ASU people complaining now. I don't believe that there's any problem with the software. Every software in today's world is scalable. They are also flexible. So you add the functionalities that you need to it. So to say IPPIS cannot suit their own purpose, for me, it doesn't make sense to me. And I think a lot of IT people will tell you it doesn't also make sense. You can always configure it to do what you want it to do. And I don't want to start talking about other information of this IPPIS because we might end up advertising some companies. Okay, but I know the infrastructure on which IPPIS run on very well. This thing is well built. A lot of multinational companies are using it. And they are using it very well, effectively, doing what it should do. Why can't our own be done like that? It's because the human element of the IPPIS is not willing to make it work.
But one of the Minister for Communication, right, digitally, Pantami, at some point raised issue on the IPPIS. I'll get back to you, Larry Waju, but Esther.
Okay, Primorg team hit the streets and sampled the opinions of some Nigerians on whether the government is doing enough to tackle payroll and ghost workers fraud in Nigeria. Take a listen to the Vox Pop.
Voices against corruption. Let the people speak.
Hello and welcome to Primorg's public feedback series on corruption, called Voices Against Corruption. And we ask, do you think the government is doing enough to tackle payroll and ghost workers fraud in Nigeria?
Sincerely, the government has not even started doing anything. Talk less of doing enough. We are taught that with the introduction of the IPPIS system, it will eliminate all of this that we are talking about today. Unfortunately, it has not only compounded the issue, it has aggravated the issue, and it has institutionalized corruption. I can assure you, we have as many as 3,000 ghost workers in the system. The earlier we come up with a system that can weed them out and let the real, authentic, and bona fide civil servants be the ones that are paid through the system, the better for us.
To me, enough is not being done. That's why you see the issue of ghost workers, budget padding, and other corruption-related financial irregularities witnessed every time in the country. I don't think enough is being done to tackle this problem. Reason being primarily because the interconnectivity in the system is poor.
Ghost workers is going to continue to exist because I'm not seeing government, even the past government, present government, even the coming government, I'm not seeing them thinking about how to check and balance who are the real civil servants. Is it not government? Is it not those who are in charge? Do those sort of that things. So government, no. They should forget. So Only I just pity the civil servants because one, salary are not even right. You call yourself federal workers, and the federal workers, the salary are not even the same. So what else? And you say irregularity will not be happen. How will not be happen?
If it is a collaborated issue, vis-a-vis the people in government, will have to work with the civil service to be able to tackle this. Without a collaborated effort, the government will try on their own, but if the insiders are not given the right orientation and there is no a form of checks and balance, what is going on, you see, it will be very difficult to fight this because it's an internal thing. It's a system, and before you fight system, you have to collaborate, give orientation, and really have people on ground that could check those things, menace that is going on in the society.
Government is trying, but to the best of my knowledge, based on the regime in government as at that time, if other administrations in the past had structures on ground, the way this APC government is using technology to detect these things, I think by now it will reduce to the barest minimum. Government is continuity. So if another set of government comes in with a different approach to handle the menace, it will, before they know, the number of these ghost workers will reduce, or it will be even, you cannot even see it exist.
One of the major problems facing the federal government today and other states is the issue of ghost workers. The solution to that, from my own point of view, is a proper scrutiny. Okay, government should conduct from time to time, engage in scrutinizing the number of workers in each of the agencies and ministries to be able to know who actually is a staff, who actually is a worker. Okay, by so doing, through verification, okay, through biometrics and face-to-face verification, government can be able to tackle the issue of ghost workers in government agencies and ministries.
Primark's public feedback on corruption in Nigeria is produced with support from MacArthur Foundation.
At the voices of some Nigerians on their opinion on the IPPIS. I'm back in the studio. I still have my guests. Olarewaju, would you like to react to the issues raised by the citizens on the road? Some talked about right orientation for those who would control the system, talked about checks and balances. Kindly react to this.
Thank you. I will react to that too, and also I would love to just contribute to what Mr. He said earlier. He mentioned, I think you're forgetting something about the issue of accountability and transparency. As at now, 696 MDAs are actually signed on as of 2020 to the IPPIS, and that is about 1.133 million for federal workers. Now, we have some other MDs that are not signed up to it. I feel like, aside from the issue of even the routine issue of we use the employment letters and the like, we must address the accountability for IPPIS to work appropriately. I'm not leading to a union like ASU, for instance, but for a union like ASU that is saying that there are deductions that have been made from their salary that are not clear enough. If you have a software and you deduct 1 naira from people's money, you should be able to clear to say this 1 naira we are deducting is for this purpose. Not just ASU. We have other associations that come up to say, other workers have come up to say some union deals were deducted from their money, and the government is not saying that who are these deals being paid to exactly. So the government should be able to say we are deducting 1,000 naira from your money. 5 naira is for this purpose, 2 naira is for this purpose, so that people can be clear about what exactly or where exactly their money is going to. We have, even in the oil sector, we have a case in which workers in the oil sector are refusing to embark upon the high PPIs, and this is a very critical sector that a lot of allegations of corruption have been going on over time. So back to what the people have said, it still boils down to the same thing we have been saying in studio hall this while, that there's a need for everything we do in the country. There's a need for a political will. Despite all of these calls for IPPIS, the ICPC still came out to say 49 billion naira was inserted in the 2022 budget as goes for ghost workers. So it questions the fact that if they still have the mind to input 49 billion naira, that is more than the budget of a local government.
Just to add to what you said, the suspended Accountant General of the Federation, Ahmed Idris, who is currently facing corruption trial, was alleged by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, to have diverted funds through IPPIS, GIFMIS, and the TSA.
And also to add to that, there was a report we did recently about 5 billion naira that was not remitted as taxes by FRS. And one of the functions of the IPPIS is not just salary payment, it's also to kind of get remittances, third-party remittances for FRS and other agencies. So if all of these things keep up, look at the 2019 Auditor General report and look at all of the anomalies stated here. IPPIS started in 2007 and we're talking about 2019. If we have like 12 years and we still have the same issues that we had in 2007, so we should start questioning the rationale, not just the software, but how it is deployed.
How it is deployed and how to strengthen it. We'll get back to you, but we need to bring the person at the other end of the dial to join in the conversation.
Please follow us on our social media platforms at official Primorg. The spelling of Primorg is PRIMORG.
And remember that the program is interactive. The WhatsApp phone line to send your message to is 0902 265 6167. That is 0902 265 6167. Remember that this number is for messages only. Would like you to contribute to the conversation. Do you think government can completely remove ghost workers on its payroll? What improvement do you think the app needs to fight payroll fraud better? And how can ghost workers syndrome rocking several states and local governments of the Federation be eradicated?
Agaba, Nigeria is already in a serious revenue crisis. What should be the federal government's best approach to strengthening the IPPIS and eradicating ghost workers menace in the public sector?
First, the government needs to start from the very beginning. What is the recruitment process? The IPPIS has the power to follow up with, it's designed to even start from the recruitment process, to gather the CVs and do your different levels of employment, so that at the final stage, the people you employed are already in the system. So you can start from now by doing that. The employment in the past, you can do a proper auditing and make sure that if the standard operating manual that I've talked about is not available, it should be drafted. There must be intermittent audit of the system by external people who are not in this system. You can even decide to bring a foreign company to come and do it from time to time. That's the expense we need to bear.
International body.
Yes, and anybody that is caught or found wanting should be punished publicly. The person should be made, I don't want to use the word useless, but made the person as wretched as possible. Everything that they have stolen should be taken back from them, so that it serves as a deterrent. When other people see it, if I am caught, this is what I will look like.
Hello, your name and where you're calling us from?
Yes, you are speaking with Ifa Shuku.
Let's hear you, please.
Yes, you see this ghost worker matter. It has been long. It's just like a budget package. Most people budget in the Senate. So what is there that people who are committing this act, they have their background. The people that put them there, they are working for them. So lack of punishment is what is causing all this problem that we don't like when they are talking of oil theft. People that are stealing oil. What of the money they are stealing the NNPC and the money that is made when the president is the minister of petrol? So we have problems. Everybody is packing his share until when God gives us a good leader. The lack of getting a good leader is to close that place is very easy. Look at the accountant there who still 108 billion is working free. Where are we going? Please cannot say next time.
Okay, thank you for your contribution there. Okay, please go ahead.
We need to prosecute people who are found wanting. I guarantee you, if you go to the system today, the system will show you a log of everybody who imputed something, who approved something, at what time, when, and from what system they logged in. That information is there. Any IT expert can tell you. They should pull it out. If you say you found 64,000 or 54,000 ghost workers, who imputed them?
Valid question.
Who imputed them? Bring the person out. There is no investigation that should be hidden. Let the person be out. Let's ask the person questions.
So why do you think ghost workers rarely seen persecuted in Nigeria? Why don't we see persecution of them?
Because let's ask the question very quickly.
Helen, your name and where you're calling us from?
Yes, it's my greeting. Apostle from Abuja. Concerning what we are discussing, how will the government of the day they are the beneficiary of this ghost worker? In fact, before you know now, they will set a committee to find out those ghost workers. In the end of the day, because they are in a sort of another committee, they're like quite unfortunate that Nigeria, they know how to make law, but they won't implement the law. That's unfortunate. So my prayer goes that we Nigeria, we are not yet serious to fight those workers. Thank you and God bless you. My name is Apostle.
Thank you so much, Apostle. But just to also add that a committee has been inaugurated to look into all.
No, I was going to say that before when she asked the question. The best way for us to figure out who is responsible. This money went somewhere. The salaries of these ghost workers went to some accounts. Who owns that account? Are there still accounts operating in our bank without BVNs? If they are not, why don't we publish the name? Retrieve the account. And then we start arresting those people one by one. They will tell us where the money is going and how they got into the IPPIs. Because I don't think a ghost is operating any account in any bank. Tell you what will happen. If they are actually stealing, they are going to use stooges to collect the money. Oh, come, bring your name. I will put you on the IPPIs. When they pay salary, they pay 100,000, bring me 80,000 and keep 20,000. So if you catch the man who is using his account to collect the money, he will tell you who is giving the money to.
Okay. Hello.
Yes, my name is Adama. I'm calling from Karo.
Let's hear you.
Yes, the issue that we have I think it's not the issue of leaders that we're talking about. Nigeria, all of us were guilty on this thing. For example, you see somebody stealing money. He's going to take that money to church or mosque. They'll collect it and build church and do mosque. Somebody steal money. You go to and get traditional rule. We clap for their deal. So we're all guilty. Till one will change for good, we'll get good leaders. And another thing, our judicial system of government that we operate is faulty. Somebody steal money, you go and trace the money in the bank from this bank to this bank, from this bank. But God will tell you that government must prove it. What kind of proof it are you God is asking us? When there's a transaction from this bank to this account to this account. In France today, if you steal money, you are the one that are going to prove it that you did not steal. But in Nigeria, it's the government that are going to prove it that you steal money. So what kind of if somebody steal 100,000 today, just will take it to prison. But you still billions. They'll still say tomorrow, come next month, come this. You spend 10 years in the same court in this country. So the problem of individuals in this country, not the law.
Thank you so much. Individuals are not the law.
We have a message at the
Okay, please go ahead.
Yes, on Facebook from Harris Ede. He said, I really appreciate the guest in the studio. Can we look at the loopholes the corrupt civil servants are exploiting and how they are compromising the IPPIS? If the accountant general can circumvent the system, what of the other accountants in various MDAs? Aris Ede, journalist. Thank you very much, Aris.
Thank you for your contribution. What of other accountants in other MBAs? Olari Waju, the next question will be directed to you. Okay, let me take this call before I get to you. Hello, in your name and where you're calling us from?
I am Ahmed Nasiru, calling from Abuja.
You have 1 minute, Nasiru.
This issue that you people are talking, in fact, I really credit you people. You people are trying that. My problem with Nigerian government, all these things you people are talking in the radio, you people are just wasting on a saliva. They will not take it. Even if you give advice, they will not follow you. They will not follow it up because everybody are corrupt. Even during the Abacha regime, when Abacha took over, this Abacha, he said that from the messenger, they are corrupt. When you want to go on leave, on annual leave, you pass your file will be hiding under table until when you cry before they forward your so all these things you people are trying. Nobody will take action.
Thank you so much, Nasiru. But would you prefer we all keep quiet and the menace continues? Recall that we are currently facing a huge economic challenge in Nigeria. I don't think it's wise for everybody to keep quiet and allow whatever that is happening to happen. It is our responsibility to hold the government to account. As we round up, please, we've had our former guest, Rafat Salami, who said that we all need to be whistleblowers. Do you agree with that? And what other solution would you prefer as we round up?
Well, just briefly, I think the issue of whistleblowing is quite a big issue. I would not just say we should subscribe to that fully now, as much as it will be whistleblowers. When you're whistleblowing to someone, the person you're whistleblowing to, what is the morality of the person to, what is the condition of the person. Well, I would say basically that we should actually try to make IPPIs flexible, in the sense that there's a central system currently. IPPI should actually be made to look at the peculiarities of the MDAs, to look at the deploy to ensure that all MDAs are involved in this execution, not just the Accountant General Office. It's a big number of 1.133 million, and we should not deceive ourselves. Looking at that number and looking at the fact that we want to make it central, it may bring a lot of hiccups. There are laws that guide every MDA, there are issues of autonomy, there are issues of deployment and the like. So I would just say that the government should go back, just like Pantami also said in August, the government should go back to the drawing table and see how to deploy IPPIs better. And also the human that actually handle IPPIs should have the political will and the personal will to make it work. If not.
Okay, so before we go to Agaba, we have a message also from Eze. He said, also, why are some MDAs not logged into this platform? Can we talk about the various compromises and how it can better be handled? Thanks.
Some MDAs like CBN is not subscribed to the IPPIS.
It's supposed to be government.
I think it was a face-by-face thing, and for other reasons, I wouldn't know. But when you are deploying any system like that, you need to do it face-by-face. Because as you put one on it, you need to see the peculiarity, the issues that it will throw. There's no system that you implement without issues. But in the end, the system is working perfectly today. There are compromises that were made. There are times we worked overnight and all of that. So face by face is okay. But we should also make sure that even those offline are also checked very well, so that they won't usurp that advantage to commit frauds before it gets to their time. And then let's hope that as we go along, like he said, the government goes back to the drawing board, look at the general issues. If there needs to be new laws, make those laws, and then put everybody on the system and put an SOP alongside that guides the use of the system. And then, of course, institute an intermittent auditing of the system.
Okay, thank you so much. We really must round up at this time.
Please visit our news website, primognews.org. That is primognews.org for all the details of our reports and interviews. Visit our website, www.primog.org, to get all the information about Primog.
And you can watch our videos on Primog TV, our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to get reminders when we have a new post. We sincerely appreciate our guests, public affairs analyst and education consultant, Agaba Wilson Agaba. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
And also to Olari Waju Oyedeji from Data Fight. Thank you also.
Thank you.
Our appreciation also goes to the former Secretary of Nigerian Union of Journalists, Rafat Salami, who joined us via the phone. Thank you all for joining us, and for those who called in, thank you those who watched via Facebook. We sincerely appreciate all of you. Public Conscience has the support of the John D. and Catherine C. MacArthur Foundation, committed to building a more just, verdant and peaceful world. Get more information about the foundation on its website, macfound.org.
Join us again here next week for another episode of Public Conscience. And remember to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Official Primog. I am Esther Bassi.
Remember that birth registration and birth certificates are both free if your child is under 18. Help stop the corruption in birth registration and do not pay for birth certificates. Also remember that you can give us information or hints about Corrupt Act through our phone 0902-265-6167 or info@primorg.org. I am Adaobi Obiabomo. Stay safe.